identity domain for the last 19 years now. Okay, so the topic for today is Beyond Access Manager, a path to modern identity security, right? So looking at the crowd today, I think everyone have a basic, I believe everyone in this room have a basic understanding of what is an identity management and identity governance is. So I'm not going to talk about the basics. We will talk about how we can take this identity governance or identity management program to the next level, right? So, but just wanted to give you some understanding of what you mean by identity governance, right? When you look at your organization, you have different types of users, right? You have your employees, you have your contractors, your business partners. When you're talking to healthcare sector, doctors, nurses, when you look at the universities, you have students, staff, different types of identities in every organization. Also, there are different applications as well, right? Like cloud applications or on-premise application, complex ERP application, any types of applications. And these users have access to all these applications, right? So the core of identity governance program is nothing but getting a visibility into who is having access to what within your organization, right? Because without that visibility, you cannot govern your identity, you cannot enforce controls and compliance on your identities within an organization, right? That is the basics of any identity governance program, right? But having said that, identity is complex. So that means you and me are complex, right? So let's try to understand why it is complex. You look at my identity within Sailpoint, okay? I have a user account within Sailpoint. If you look at my identity, I have access to 27 applications, okay? Around 56 attributes that define me, right? Like my job position, my job title, who is my manager, which location I belongs to. This defines my identity. And within those applications, I have access to around 142 entitlements. When I say entitlements, it's application roles, right? Across these applications. Around 18 business roles, 25 IT roles, and access to 24 applications. So this would mean I have around 292 distinct data points within Sailpoint, right? So if you take me, I have around 292 access points within Sailpoint. So if you're looking at an organization of a 2,000 or 5,000 size, you're talking about millions of data points that you need to have access to. Do you think as a human, you can get visibility into who is having access to those data points or access point? And without that visibility, do you think you can secure your identities within the organization? That's very key, right? So that visibility, you need to start getting it, right? That's the first point. And I would say identity is a big data problem, right? Because you're dealing with a huge set of data here, right? It's millions and millions of data access points here, and you need to really manage and get visibility into this data, right? And absolutely, we can say when you're talking about a big data application, you're talking about volume, the number of identity, different varieties of identities, right? Employees, contractors, business partners, etc. Volume you're talking about. You're also talking about the velocity of changes that are happening with these data points or access points. Because in an organization, your access points can change. The users are moving from one department to another. They're changing their job titles, right? Your contractor is becoming an employee. A new business partner is getting joined. New applications are getting onboarded. Some applications are getting moved from on-premise to cloud, right? So velocity of changes that are happening within an organization. And again, the variety of data. These users can have access to different types of applications, starting from a simple AD or a database, or it could be an access to a complex ERP system or a GRC system, ticketing system. So variety of access points within an organization. So you're dealing with huge data problem within an organization, right? You need to have visibility into. Now, when you look at it, extremely large data set that may be analyzed computationally to reveal pattern, trends, and association. And combinations of these data points can lead to different risk within your organization, right? Unless you manage that access point correctly, it can get into a certain situation where this combination can cause risk to your organization, and that's what we want to manage as part of an identity governance program, isn't it? And again, you're dealing with a volume of everything. You can link it back to an identity, right? Volume of identities, velocity of changes to an identity, variety of identity points, and that you need to really perform a computational analysis on the data to discover the pattern, trends, and the risk associated with identities in your organization, right? So what we are talking about is making use of AI and machine learning technologies on top of this data to uncover the risk associated with the organization or risk attached to your identity, right? Because it can form those patterns, trends, and associations, right? So that's the next level you want to go. Because as a humans, you cannot have this visibility at this level for sure, right? Because you need introduction of AI and machine learning capability into your data to discover these patterns. Now, let's talk about, so what does it mean to you, right? When you talk about an identity governance program, if you are at a maturity level 1, you may be performing your identity governance in a manual way, right? Someone would be requesting for the access, or manually someone will be approving those accesses for the user. Everything is driven manually, right? But the way we are looking at this problem is solve it by AI and machine learning, right? If you have a manual driven car, for example, if I'm driving on the road, and if there is an obstacle in front of me, I have to apply my brake, right? In order to avoid the risk associated with hitting that particular person, right? I need to control it myself, right? But if you have AI-enabled technology, right? If this technology sees any particular risk associated with the organization, it will start automatically applying brakes for you. It will show you who are the risky users within an organization, right? If there are any risky accesses for the user, technology itself will take out the accesses and remediate those risks for you automatically, right? So that's what we call it as an autonomous mode of identity within your organization. And that's possible only using AI and machine learning capabilities, injected into your identity governance program, rather than you start doing it manually within an organization, right? Now, let's look at some of the examples of AI and machine learning technology that is used within identity governance program. If you look at this example, what it's doing is it's identifying the outliers in your organization, right? The risk of a user within the organization can be due to many factors, right? It could be because they have over-entitled accesses within the organization, right? Or they may be different from their peer group. For example, if I belongs to accounting department and I have certain, the users in accounting department may have a set of accesses that are attached to it, right? But if the AI and machine learning is identifying that even though I belong to accounting department, I have some additional accesses, right, compared to my peer groups, right? That means he could be a risky user within the organization, right? So what it does is it performs what we call it as a peer group analysis, right? It groups the people together based on certain properties and identify who are the users who is outside this peer group. It could be a risky user within an organization, right? And it could be also based on the activity data of the user within the organization as well, right? As an accounting user, if let's say I'm logging in from a blacklisted country, right? And my single sign-on solution is giving me that activity data, right? And use that data as part of AI and machine learning, right? And make it as a risky user within an organization. That's what I could do, right? So here what it does is, it tells me, hey, among 5,000 users within the organization, probably 100 users are risky users because of X number of reasons, right? And it's not just provides that visibility, it also provides a mechanism to mitigate those risks as well, right? The moment the user becomes risky in the organization, we can immediately trigger a workflow to trigger a governance action against that user. Okay, the governance actions could be, you can trigger an approval process where it can go to a manager and say, hey, look at that user, and he has become a risky user, and these are the reasons why he has become risky within the organization. Take out his accesses immediately, right? And you can also automate it, right? You don't need to send it to even manager. You can automate the process of disabling his critical accesses within the organization using this workflow engine, right? So AI and machine learning bundled together with the governance processes like approvals or access certifications or automated pre-provisioning of accesses is a great value to any organization. The other AI-driven process. Are you guys familiar with access certifications within your organization? I know Sue is really familiar with that. Yes, absolutely, right? So access certifications are a mechanism through which you can take snapshot of users' accesses within the organization and provide it to get it reviewed by some decision makers like managers or compliance officers, right? So on a regular basis, you can do that review process. And as part of the review process, we can take some decision whether to revoke or approve those accesses. But look at managers, they're really struggling, right? They get a lot of access certifications to do. And as a manager, I may have 10 reportees, right, under me. And every reportees will have hundreds of line items, access items, right? And for manager, it's too much to do, right? How do I take decision on this access item? It's a certification fatigue, what we call it. What about the AI and machine learning is providing you some recommendation whether you should approve or reject it, right? So that the manager doesn't do a rubber stamping on those accesses for the user, right? Because typically what managers will do is they will do a rubber stamping saying that, okay, let me get away with this, certification process, but that could lead a security hole within the organization. But if it is AI driven, it would be great value to you, right? And maybe once you reach a certain maturity level within the within this identity governance program, you can leave that decision to be taken by AI and machine learning itself. Even manager don't need to do an approval. The AI itself will take the decision for you as part of this computational analysis process, right? That's what we call it as access recommendation. Access modeling. So this is again an AI-driven process within identity governance program, right? So the only way to manage automations within your organization is to discover what we call it as a business roles, right? You need to create more and more business roles within an organization. The role is nothing but a composition of access item, right? So what the platform should do is, it should start building those business roles within an organization using AI and machine learning. You should look at the similarity of entitlement DNA of the users within an organization and start building those peer groups, right? That will become the basis of building those access roles within an organization. And those roles could be utilized for automating accesses for the user in your organization. Imagine your access certification. Instead of performing access review for hundreds of entitlements, if the manager is able to perform access review for a single role, how much time it saves for you, right? So it improved the productivity, it improved the security within an organization using this access modeling capability, which is again driven by AI and machine learning, right? So once these roles are created, it's also very important that you maintain the genuinity of this role. You need to keep those roles up to date as well, right? Because it's all about velocity and changes, right? Things are getting changed in an organization. How do you make sure the role you discovered today is genuine as of today, right? So probably new applications have come in, new applications have removed. So you may have to fine tune those roles on a continuous basis, right? So your AI and machine learning will provide you a continuous feedback on how you can maintain the genuinity of these roles as well, okay? Am I on time? Okay, another 5 minutes.
4 minutes.
Okay, this is my last slide, okay? So what should be the end goal of a healthy dynamic access model, right? We should move away from fragmented to dynamic access model, right? How do we do that? One way is you have to fast onboarding and offboarding the users with common access roles. So you should start building more and more business roles within an organization. And again, it's not possible just by human intervention. You need to start applying AI and machine learning to discover those roles within your organization, right? And again, you should be able to have visibility on who are the risky users in your organization. And these risk factors can be huge, right? And so AI and machine learning will start computational analysis on the data, access data, what you have within an organization, and start identifying who are the risky users within an organization and able to take mitigation action for those users as well, right? Again, I mentioned ensure access model is automatically optimized by a feedback loop. Once you discover those roles, you need to continuously update those roles based on the changes that are happening within an organization. Again, AI and machine learning will give you those feedback, right? Reduce certification fatigue, right? We talked about the problem the managers are facing, right? Too much of data to certify. Infuse your AI and machine learning processes into that, right? So that you can reduce the certification fatigue with the organization. Ultimately, the goal is get a complete visibility of all identity within an organization, provide users with the right access for the right period of time, right? And maintain the least privileged access, right? So that's what we do. I know many of the customers may be at maturity level 1 in your identity governance program, but start using AI and machine learning, making it, let the AI drive your identity governance program and make it more autonomous, right? Rather than running it in an augmented way, right? So with that, I'll just conclude my presentation. If you have any questions, please go ahead. Yes, Sue.
So I would love to be at a maturity state where I can resist and identify outliers. The problem we have is, I think, pretty common for a lot of organizations. It's called clone user.
Yeah.
So what we find is that when training does it, we're training with it. Because we have in the past had a practice of giving the same access as
Copy the data, yeah.
So when you're training our AI, we're actually not training it to do the last thing. So human access could be identified as just trade.
Yeah.
And not flagged as risky access because lots of people have it. That could have been programs in the past. So if we're coming from a state like that, what would be the steps to get out to a point where we can
Okay, so you keep on copying the user's access over a period of time in the past, right? So, the data model, the role identification, it's based on the similarity in entitlement DNA, okay, in combination with the certain attributes of the user, right? Like, for example, from accounting team, me and you belongs to accounting team, and if I have the similar entitlement DNA, right, I'm eligible to be part of that particular peer group, right? And you can derive roles based on that particular, peer group, right? But your access is copied, and you belong to some other department, right? For example, right, then the Sailpoint, the technology will identify. I have to be technology agnostic, right? So, sorry for that.
7 seconds.
Yeah.
I guess that's where I understand this is great for economics. We're not sure around steady state.
Yeah.
Steady state. But if you're not there yet, how do you get there? Because you don't want to be training very high to identify.
So I think the best would be, first step of identity governance program is to get that visibility. Okay, you bring in all the data from all your applications and build that what we call as an identity warehouse, right? Which is a 360-degree view of your identity, right? And then probably what you should do is you can trigger an organization-wide certification campaign, right? To either to your managers or compliance officer, and they can start looking at the data, right? And look at the accesses these users have, and do it as a one-time exercise to clean up the mess you have. Okay, I would suggest that, right? So as part of the certification process, so once you have cleaned it up, then you can start buying an AMA. We can talk further if you want, but yeah, we always recommend first step, a cleanup exercise, right? By bringing in the data, trigger a certification and clean it up. Make sense? Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you, Soby. Another warm round of applause.